The Big Three is a concept that I think lots of people are familiar with by now. The Big Three of anime, the Big Three of DC Comics, or the Big Three of rap. Whatever the genre, the Big Three is pretty self-explanatory, the biggest three and most notorious figures of any given category. To that end, there is a Big Three of Elden Ring mods. The Convergence mod, which I've explored pretty thoroughly in some past videos, though it's worth noting that it's been updated quite a bit since then and might be worth going over again. The Elden Ring Reforged mod, a mod that I haven't made a video about, but a mod that I've played in private and really enjoyed because it improves on Elden Ring's combat pretty significantly, and the mod we'll be looking at today, the Garden of Eyes mod. Like the other two mods, the Garden of Eyes mod adds new bosses, new weapons, new spells, new armor sets, entirely new areas, and a plethora of items and enemies from previous Souls games. The thing that sets the Garden of Eyes mod apart from the others is that it is a pay-to-play mod. This has greatly upset some folks online who think you shouldn't have to pay for mods, and to that I really only have one response. If you don't think it's worth paying for, either don't play it or make it yourself. Pretty simple. This pay-to-play thing does make me a little uncomfortable for one reason though, and that's if I really don't like it, I don't want to prevent other people from playing it. I'm not trying to mess with their bag. So before we get into it, I will just say this. All the opinions in this video are my own, and if you are interested in playing the mod, then you absolutely should. What you should not do is go online and find it for free somewhere. Whether you support the idea of mods being pay to play or not, pirating a small team of independent modders who have obviously put a lot of time and effort into their work is pretty cringe, and $5 isn't that bad for what is essentially another Elden Ring DLC. I'm not being paid to say that or sponsored at all. I'm gonna give some pretty strong opinions about this mod later, but that's just how I feel. With all that out of the way, let's dive into the Garden of Eyes mod and see just what new stuff waits for us in the lands between. Real quick though, it would be great if you guys could subscribe because my my people who are not subscribed and people who are subscribed ratio who watch my videos, it hurts me to look at it a little bit every time I look at it. Just putting that out there. Thanks. So first things first, there's some new classes in this mod, and along with those classes comes a new feature that lets you start off at a specific place in the world and play through the game in a different order than usual. I think this idea is cool and definitely worth exploring, but for the sake of not overwhelming the early parts of this video with new stuff, I'm gonna just use a normal class for now. I made an absolute beefcake for my character, named him Dumpalicious, not my proudest work, and got started. Now, if you've been paying real close attention to my channel, you'll notice that I haven't made an Elden Ring video since shortly after the DLC came out, which is actually the last time I played the game, so I'm honestly a little nervous. What I noticed immediately when loading in though is that my stance is cool as fuck. Like, this is new, right? I don't remember looking this cool before. I opened the door to the chapel and I can't see anything. Is that on purpose? Am I missing something? I mean, I think I'm missing everything. Walking into the boss arena, I was baited by a fake Sight of Grace and got attacked by a not grafted Scion. What the hell are you here for? Well, I got destroyed and then woke up in the stranded graveyard. Before doing anything else, I checked out this new item, the Codex of Time. When you use this item, you'll be directed to the Garden of Eyes wiki, which is a pretty awesome feature. Unfortunately, the wiki isn't super detailed and can be almost cryptic with its descriptions of where to find things, but again, I do think it is a cool idea and a good way to make sure people don't miss anything by accident. This is also the point where I established my goal for this video: encounter and defeat every new boss. They're all over the place in this mod, so I'll get a pretty thorough experience by trying to find every one of them. I stopped by Rick's cave to see if there was anything new with him. Nope. Still soft as baby shit. Then I ascended the elevator, threw open the door, and was a little disappointed. I mean, nothing to do with the mod. It's not their fault. I don't remember the game being so gray. Maybe I'm smoking crack. I don't know. I tested my metal against the tree sentinel and discovered that I've still very much got that dog in me, beating it on my first try. I next met with Melina. She offered me an Accord, but I've got a Honda Civic, so I'm good. I'm sure that joke has been made 1,000 times. Probably best not to think about it. Well, I've got Torrent. I've got the Lord Sworn Greatsword I found in this chest. I guess I'll just see what I can do against Margit. For some reason, the weather during his cutscene was gosh darn gorgeous and gave a really nice feel to this little moment that I've seen so many times before. No idea if that was intentional or not. Also, no idea if him being really slow was intentional. Like, maybe I've just been away from the game for too long, or maybe the Convergence mod makes him faster and I didn't know it, and that's just what I'm used to at this point, but it felt like I had Ultra Instinct. I don't know. I mean, I beat him pretty easily. For my reward, I got Margit's Cane, which which is definitely new and pretty neat. I can't use it, but if I could, I'm sure it would be useful. Melina came to commend me for my work, and then she took me to the round table. This place looks like Dookie. What the hell happened? Well, I guess I'll just head out here, and holy shit. This place is goddamn beautiful. I mean, I get it's the Elden Beast backdrop, yeah, but it looks really nice. I did some exploring and came across this statue. This thing gives you access to all of the new stuff. The new weapons, the new spells, everything. I'd love to grab some stuff from here and carry on, but I'm gonna earn my new items, and I won't be using this statue for the time being. I also found this room where you can challenge the demigods in what they call their Elden forms. Ominous. Well, back into the fray, I was jump scared by a giant bird, which explains why I was having some GPU issues, and then after getting murdered, I figured I should really go do some exploring. To help me explore, I've got a new steed. Yeah, I lied about the statue. I took a couple things from it. I did battle with the Beast Man and was pleasantly surprised to see that he's got some new stuff going on. I love when mods don't ignore the little guys. It just kind of gives you a reason to go back through the dungeons that you've almost definitely already seen before. I killed the watchdog, nothing new there, and then finally found a real challenge in the death-touched catacombs, the vestige of a forgotten knight. With some help from the skeletons in this place, this bad boy beat my ass for longer than I'd like to admit. When I did finally kill him though, I got Alon's armor, which I'll definitely be rocking because it's got some great physical damage negation. Like I said with the Beastman, it's really cool when they add stuff onto the dungeons because now I want to go visit them all and see what new stuff each place has. After some more boss killing, I faced off against Agheel in the newly decorated Dragonburnt Ruins. He destroyed my frame rate, so I destroyed him. I also wanted to fight the Crucible Knight in this Everjail, but I was surprised by a Guardian Golem instead. Weird, but the armor he gave me was crazy strong and also crazy heavy. On my way to grab some Sacred Tears in the Weeping Peninsula, I was stopped by this Frenzied Flame guy. He doesn't even have a name, but he was insanely cool, and I enjoyed my little battle with him very much. Didn't get anything for it though. Bummer. I also ran into the Frenzy Flame avatar, which, and I'm gonna keep saying it, is cool. Change or add onto the little things and make people want to check out every inch of the game. We are off to a great start with this mod. I figured while I was already in the Weeping Peninsula, I'd better go visit Castle Morn. By the entrance, I found a new enemy, the Shadow of the Throne Watcher. I wasn't gonna fight this fucker while I was being chased by a billion little guys, so I ran back down the elevator. And then they died. Guess they tried to follow me down. Well, that's pretty funny. And then when the Throne Defender showed up, I knew what I had to do. Nice. There was nothing else new in this castle, the Misbegotten was normal, and with him dead, I thought it was about time to go kill Frodrick the Asshead. Yeah, they're really not my best work today. I really prefer the Convergence version of Godric because he feels like a real threat there, but this Godric was slow, weak, silent for some reason, and he went down real easy. We're moving quick, but that's because we still haven't gotten to a lot of the new stuff. One new thing in Liurnia is that, it's really red. Like, really, really red. I mean, okay. I killed another Erdtree avatar who also had some new stuff, killed the Spirit Collar Snail, and then realized I don't really know where to go to get cool new stuff. So I traveled east to Florida to see if they had any goodies for me. Here I killed the Putrid Avatar, and then after the Watchdog duo beat my ass for a while, I had very quickly had enough of Caelid and went back to working on Liurnia. I found Moongrim's little brother, who proved that the Perigod gene just runs in the family, but he dropped some really cool armor. This mod gets me. It knows I just love this edgelord nonsense. I also ran into a new boss that I had no idea existed, Drake Knight Eladir. It takes all of about 5 seconds to realize that this is a Nameless King first phase clone, but hey, it's hard to be disappointed when you weren't expecting anything in the first place. I wanted to get stronger after that, so I went to Patches to buy some gold chicken feet. I was gonna take those to Caelid and kill the big dragon, but I got sidetracked by Ambrose. This guy one-shots me with literally every attack, and I was not having a good time. I took a little break from the mod for a day or two after that, and when I returned, I took my own advice. If you can't beat him, go do something else. This game is way too darn big to be getting stuck in a rut against bastards like him. I forgot about the big dragon thing and instead took on the Clean Rot Knight, the Crystallian, and eventually Caria Manor. They didn't shoot at me on the way in, which was kinda scarier than if they had shot at me, and I knew there was gonna be something different here. That became very obvious when I approached the boss room and found a weird cloud thing. It started a cutscene, and that cutscene was Renala's face transition. A, she's got some new digs, that's cool, and B, what the fuck? I have no idea why she's here, but I guess I'll beat her up regardless. She had Blythe as a summon this time, which is actually really cool, and she's got a few physical attacks. When I got her to about half health, she summoned Radagon. My god, man, that is terrifying. They killed me on my first attempt, but on try number 2, I returned the favor. All in all, Ronaldo's little upgrade was great. That makes me wonder, though, what's waiting in Raya Lucaria? Well, before going there and finding out, I went on a killing spree. Starcaller Mayonnaise, the Onyx Lord, this guy, the Clean Rot Knight duo, the Big Dragon, and another putrid avatar. After all that killing, I was pretty confident that I could handle whatever the Academy had to throw at me. The first thing it threw at me was not letting me in. What the hell? It said to go to Caria Manor, but I already did that, so I kinda had to look up where to go from here. Turns out you're supposed to go to the 4 belfries and use a teleporter there, which is cool, I guess, but how was I ever supposed to know that? Maybe I missed something obvious at Caria, but whatever, we're here, and it's red. The order of operations in this place has changed a bit, as now you have to go do a little running around, find this lever, and get the big wheel spinning again. After you do so, you will not be greeted by the Red Wolf, but instead by the Blood Hunter's apparition. Look, I've never played Bloodborne. I know, sue me. So I was pretty nervous to face off against who is pretty obviously Lady Maria. That being said, her moveset was pretty intuitive, and I feel like I did a good job of not getting tripped up. With my big boy sword, I won that battle. I killed Moongrum right after, forgot to kill him with the elevator like I usually do, and then went to confront whatever boss it was that replaced Renala. I walked in, and I walked, and I ran, and oh, there we go. A cutscene began, but I realized immediately that this is the Elden Beast cutscene, which was confirmed when the weird cosmic veiny hand came up out of the ground, although it's blue. So, am I fighting the Elden Beast early? Well, yes and no. This is Odon. No clue if I'm saying that right, but he is pretty clearly an Elden Beast clone. Instead of holy damage, though, he uses magic attacks. I died to a pretty silly attack 10 seconds after meeting him, which didn't hurt nearly as much as knowing that there's an Elden Beast clone. Of all the bosses to clone, this fucking guy? My round 2 went way better, but then it used some Mission Impossible bullshit laser attack, and then it ran away and spammed projectiles, and I just, This is just the Elden Beast, but way more annoying. An absolute 0 out of 10 boss. Total horrendous dog shit. And I don't say that to be mean. I'm sure someone spent a lot of time on this boss, but I cannot imagine that they've actually playtested this fight, because it really sucks. Like I said just a bit ago though, if you get stuck, go try something else. I wanted to make it to Altus next, so I scaled the precipice and fought with Makar. Nothing new going on here, easy win as per usual, and after killing him, I took the elevator up to the Altus Plateau. I rode straight into the capital where I found something new. As you can see on the map, there's something called the Council of the Crucible Knights. This place is an absolute dump, and I'm not sure if I should make a hemorrhoids joke or a period joke or both. Well, it seems that what I'm supposed to do is kill each of these captains and the final boss will appear. Simple enough, I'll get to that later. Now that I've been in Altus, I think Radahn should be ready for me to fight. Radahn has a big, noticeable difference, and that is that he skips the arrow phase. He just charges straight at you. And while I do love the idea that he's fully in Fade on Sight mode, the spectacle of having to dodge the arrows and approach him is actually something I kinda like, though I think most people would disagree with me there. We started fighting, and honestly, I was beating his ass. He had one new attack, which was some bullshit teleporting, but he flew off for phase 2 pretty quickly. And you know what? I just continued beating him down. But when his health dropped to 0, something started happening. He got back up, the sky darkened, tornadoes formed in the distance, meteors rained from the sky, and Radahn was no longer the conqueror of the stars, he was now Berserker Radahn, the Star Scourge. This was sick, but then I realized that his health is basically already at 0, and I only had to hit him a few times to finish the fight. I think it was a neat display, but I feel like I didn't really get anything out of it. Like, other than looking cool, it wasn't really any meaningful addition to the fight. Feels a little like I got blue-balled. But Radahn's down, and now I get to show you guys one of the coolest parts of this mod. If you interact with this Garden of Eyes symbol, you can summon a familiar face to battle with, Gale. Gale beat my ass, and boy was I glad. We'll come fight him for real later, but I love that they put some past bosses in this game. In the meantime, I stopped by the round table and found that there is now a big statue of Radahn there. I interacted with it and was back fighting Radahn, but I guess he's in his Elden form this time? I mean, he hits harder and he's got more health, but other than that, it seems like he's pretty much the same. Interesting. Guess we'll come back to that later as well. Back in Altus, I challenged Lanciax, and she challenged my graphics card. I eventually killed her and got a pretty cool cool weapon. I took that weapon to the Draconic Tree Sentinel, and even though I'm sure lightning isn't great against this guy, the weapon still proved to be really strong. And then I got the Dragon Great Claw for killing him, and this thing has got a new move. That's sick. I like that. I didn't want to dilly-dally here, so I went straight into the gold-free arena, only to find that there was no gold-free. Instead, I'd have to complete 3 trials to face Morgott. The first one was the Trial of the Sacred Branch. I had to protect this little golden tree and stop the enemies from destroying it. I didn't think it was gonna hold out, but right when I started getting nervous, I passed the trial. The next one was the Trial of the Golden Echoes. The message with this one said, survive until the onslaught is over. And when I actually began the trial, I got jumped. I tried fighting, but these guys are surprisingly tough, and as time went on, the amount of enemies only grew to the point where I literally couldn't even move and I got curb stomped. I came up with a pretty smart strategy though. Hide. Seriously, I sat in this corner for 3 minutes and then boom, I win. Then the final trial was the Trial of the Blooded Twin. I could only assume that meant one thing, and I was right. This Moog doesn't have Nihil or the crazy second phase, so I won without too much trouble. That led me straight to Morgott, who pissed all over the place. Oh my god. Morgott starts in what is typically his second phase. The fight was cool, but I beat him pretty... Oh, I didn't beat him, did I? Oh no, what is he doing? Well, it turns out he is growing wings and summoning fucking Moog. Now this is a 2-for-1 and Gold Moog and Morgott are gangbanging me and too much, man. I like the ambition. I really do. And I guess if Morgott is capable of summoning golden folks, then he should probably do it during the fight of his life, but in actual execution, it really just is too much. It kind of dampens Morgott himself, and I'm not getting to watch or enjoy his moveset at all because now I'm worrying about both of them. As I've said a few times, I guess I'll come back to this later. I went down into Nokron and found a Deathbird guy. I killed him, and that opened some kind of portal. I walked in, and I was in a whole new world, the spirit world of Helfin. This place looks pretty dang nice. The obvious next step here is to climb the stairs and take on the boss. It's a double fight, of course. They really have a boner for that kind of thing. And what I didn't realize is that you can't stand in the middle of the arena inside this tree, otherwise you'll burn your health and they will regain theirs. Problem was, for me, I was already frustrated with the mod at this point, and I was blinded by that frustration, and I kind of just assumed that the boss sucked, and I moved on. We'll come back later. I killed the Black Flame avatar. Again, I think those little changes are very cool, and then tried to kill the Godskin Apostle. This guy is always a litmus test for how tough I actually am, because if you're not ready for him, he will tear you down. That didn't work out, but then I realized that there's actually another boss in this tower. At the very top, after killing Radon, you can find a new boss, Crucible Knight Devonia. Devonia is a pretty fun fight, and though there's not a whole lot of new innovative stuff going on, that might be for the best, honestly. A nice, simple, familiar fight was just the thing I needed to get my spirits back up. With my spirits raised right along with the quality of my weapon, now at +9, I went back and faced Morgott again. Now that I was doing some real damage, Morgott was neck deep in his own urine. I fought him like I was an actual caveman, and his phase transition came quick. I was hitting like a truck, and even though there were 2 of them, I was chunking his health. And after a little back and forth, I came out on top. Did it feel good? Well, it feels good that it's over. You know what really felt good though was getting my revenge on Ambrose. Fuck that guy. On my way to the Lift of Rold, I ran into another new boss, Crucible Knight Kreta. Kreta is a pretty normal Crucible Knight, but they use fire instead. It's a surprisingly effective visual, and just enough for me to not be upset that they're basically just a reskin. Reskin or not though, Kreta slapped me around for a good while. All I needed to do though was beat Kreta how I would normally beat a Crucible Knight. Yep, that's all it takes. Once I was actually in the mountaintops, I killed Ben Hart and got the Moonlight Greatsword. Cool little surprise. I killed Borealis. I killed Frozen Rampart Knight Oriel, and then killed Vike to complete my spree. With a good weapon, some better stats, and some more confidence, I figured I'd better go put that Elden Beast wannabe down. I went back and fought with him, but I really have to say, I can't even see what they were trying to accomplish here. Like, this fight is just not enjoyable in any way, shape, or form, and some attacks are timed in ways that make it completely and totally impossible to not take damage. Odon was a huge letdown, especially because I was really excited to see what replaced Renala, and then was served a big blue pile of slop. He also has a second phase that's basically the same stuff, but he's like red now. I don't know, man. If he was getting a grade, it would genuinely be an F. AF. I did also come to realize that I was being too harsh on the Hellfin twins. After noticing the tree thing, the fight was actually not that bad. I still didn't love it, but I wasn't angry about it like I had been before. I'm skipping a lot of killing because this video is, as per usual, longer than I thought it would be, but the next thing of note was down in the deep root depths, where I encountered the Crucible Knight duo of Celuria and Ordovis. I've got some mixed feelings on this because I think it's cool that they're fighting together, but it kind of blows the load of two named Crucible Knights at once. And like, what, is there still another Crucible Knight duo in Altus? But that one like doesn't have Ordovis? I probably not. It's probably just a different boss. But these two fighting together was pretty cool, so like I said, mixed feelings all around. Skipping ahead a bit, I also took down the Fire Giant. I decided though that I wasn't quite ready to head to Faro Missoula, and instead tried out that Crucible Knight Captain. Cambria is a pain in my ass. I'm gonna say it, Deathblight is cringe and annoying. The only counterplay is to run away and wait for it to go away, or just keep a bunch of consumables on you, and it just really fucks with the flow of a fight. That being said, Cambria's first phase isn't all that scary as long as you take your time and don't let the Deathblight build up. The second phase though is a lot. There's teleporting, flashing lights, attacks with delayed splash damage, and that would all be fine, but Cambria also has this bullshit paralyzing move. And if you get hit, you're fucked. I don't hate Cambria, it's just another case of the mod makers doing too much, and I guess I'll come back for Cambria later. I wanted to level up a bit, so I went on yet another killing spree, this time blowing through Niall, Fake Estelle, the Briar Spike Avatar, the Misbegotten Crusader, BBK, the Deathrite Bird that I really hate, Theodorix, Fortisax, Fia's Champs, and after all that, I was finally able to wield a weapon I had picked up earlier, the Fume Ultra Greatsword. This thing is really strong, and the charged attack is a huge combo. It fits my playstyle perfectly. I used that weapon to challenge Gale again, and our fight was beautiful. Gale can be a pretty tough boss to get hits in on, but thankfully with my super cool sword, I was doing great damage every time I did manage to get those hits. I wish the Ash of War was a little more useful though, but even without it being much help, Gale and I were going in on each other like two horny dogs, and I beat him. After killing Gale, I felt the exact opposite of when I killed Morgott. Like, I had a lot of fun, and I'm not glad that it's over. That being said, we've still got plenty of fighting left to do. I burned the Erdtree and then went to take on the Godskin duo. Instead of them though, it was an absolute classic, Ornstein and Smo. I won't pretend that I didn't know that they were here, because I did, but it still gave me a little bit of a rush to actually see them, and just like with Gale, it's so cool to fight bosses from other Souls games in Elden Ring, because here, I feel like I have the advantage. Like, Elden Ring is my domain, and they're challenging me. You get what I'm saying? Well, whether you get it or not, I killed Ornstein first, and then Smo moved on to Phase 2. Unfortunately though, Phase 2 was just a Vort reskin. Why? Why did they do that? Couldn't they just have used the version of Smo after he absorbs Ornstein? Kind of a letdown here. Like Radahn's Berserker Blue Balls all over again. Speaking of Radahn, I had completely forgotten about Elden Radahn, and with all my newfound strength, I faced off against him once again. I finally was able to beat him, but there wasn't really anything new about it. He just had a bigger health pool, and his second phase was still at like 10% health. I did get a pretty cool shield out of it, I guess, though I'm definitely never gonna end up using it. Before taking on Malekith, I figured I'd better deal with the dragon living in his basement first. For those of you who have watched a lot of my Elden Ring videos, you probably know that I am pretty bad at this fight, and Placidrusax usually fucks me up for a while. That being said, I crushed it this time. I love this sword. It hits so damn hard, it's wonderful. After killing Placidrusax, I found myself presented with another Garden of Eyes symbol, just like before fighting Gale. It brought me to the Temple of Eyes, a hard-to-look-at area. Right down the hall here, there's a familiar boss room with a not-so-familiar boss. Well, his name is new, but his moveset is not. It's just Gale's moveset from what I can tell, which, for maybe the 100th time now, was a letdown. Like, I think it's cool to add the old bosses, I'm not complaining about that, but if you're making a new, quote-unquote, new boss, then you shouldn't just use different bosses' movesets, because otherwise, it's not really a new boss at all. Also, this guy doesn't fucking sit still. I had to Unga and Bunga to win, which was lame. After that bummer, I next ended up in the Sunken Tower of Flame. Man, I understand that they want some sort of visual spectacle, but this place is really ugly. It's a story as old as time at this point. They did too much. I'll come back here later, but while we're on the too much track, let's talk about the Lake of Rot. Do you know how hard it is to take what is widely regarded as the worst area in Elden Ring and make it even more horrible. There was just no fucking end to this place. I got lost, I got turned around, I got killed, I killed, but holy, this place just sucks. It was so bad that I just straight up cheated. Like, no joke. I booted up Cheat Engine, unlocked the next site of Grace, and teleported there. I've sworn a lot in this video, so I'm gonna tone it down now. But this place is really, really bad. What isn't bad is the choice to fuse the Orphan of Kos with Estelle. I mean, Estelle is kind of the premier eldritch horror in Elden Ring, so combining him with the craziest of Bloodborne's bosses was a stroke of genius. I really should have come here earlier though, because I tore him a new one. That's not their bad, that's my bad. Cool change though. Now, let's get back to the complaining. I went back to the sunken Tower of Hyde's Flame, or whatever it's called, and began making my way through. You get stopped constantly here to complete these little trials. All you have to do is kill people, but they basically complete themselves because there's flamethrowers going off that just often shreds the enemies, and the enemies just fight each other, so you're basically stuck watching a cutscene over and over. Not to mention that there's surprise fireballs coming at you in between those trials that might knock you off and kill you, so you might just die and have to go back through those cutscenes again. Ugh. Eventually, though, I came across the Dragon Rider, who wasn't even the Dragon Rider, he was just a tree sentinel on a dinosaur. I'd really like to stay positive, but the mod had me in pee-pee poo-poo baby mood at this point. I hated everything, and I wanted it to be over. That leaves us with a question. Is this savable? Well, I hoped so, and I kept on. I went back to kill Cambria for real this time, and was getting a hang of the fight much better. In all reality though, if I didn't have my caveman sword, I might have either not been able to win this fight at all, or I would have given up, because Cambria's phase 2 is just really hard to look at. As you've all heard me say so many times now, they just do too dang much. I won eventually, but like I said, it was only because I was a caveman, and not because I had any sort of rewarding experience where I learned and improved. I didn't want to. I didn't want to look at Cambria. They give me a headache. But let's all take a deep breath and not give up on this mod yet. I went to Mohg's palace next and ripped him to shreds. Caveman is strong, caveman go bonk. Poor guy didn't even get to Nihil. Then I did the Ordina torch puzzle thing and made my way through the Halig tree. I killed Loretta comedically easy and then found Melania in her little hole. Let me ask you something. Why in the name of all that is holy do people feel the need to mess with her waterfowl? Nobody likes waterfowl, but we have all learned how to get around it by now, so why play with it and make me relearn all that stuff? The Convergence mod does the exact same thing, and that drove me crazy in that mod. That being said, I plowed through Melania, and then I went and challenged Elden Melania, and guess what? She's the exact same, but just a little stronger. We ended up killing each other, and my bummed outedness was at an all-time high. I fought against Malekith shortly thereafter, and though he's got some new stuff, it's not really anything that got me hyped up. He also one-shot me, which was a shocker, because I'm really high leveled at this point. I killed him on my second try though, and was transported to the capital of Ash, but it looks like snow everywhere. I'm just gonna assume they didn't mean for it to look like snow, because snow here would not make a lick of fucking sense. I got to bully Gideon, which is always a good time, and then finally got cheered up in my battle against Godfrey. Not because they did anything with him or changed him in any way, it's because they didn't. They didn't mess him up. They didn't give him some bullshit. He's still just a cool, fun fight. After Godfrey, I remembered there's a bit of unfinished business in Farum Azula. I headed back there, approached the eye symbol, and was confronted by the Nameless King. I'll be honest about it, I am a sucker for Dark Souls 3 bosses. I love them. I really do. I think they really perfected the art of the boss fight in that game. It's so like with Gale, having a Dark Souls 3 boss be an Elden Ring where I have access to more fun and silly stuff is such an awesome feeling. There was a little too much Unga in my bunga the first try, but like with Malekith, I did get him the second time around. But there's one more Dark Souls 3 boss around here, and that's in the Forge of the Giants, the Wrath of Cinders. What a cool place to put this guy. You are literally fighting him in the kiln of a flame. Well, I guess I don't know what a kiln is, but it feels right regardless. The Wrath of Cinders and I had a fantastic fight, where all frustration and all disappointment completely faded from my mind. And with him down, I was through with the new bosses in the lands between. But there's one more place I haven't been yet, the Realm of Shadow. Before finding that new boss in the DLC, I first faced off against Rolana. She is such a great boss, and I was a little worried that their tampering was going to mess things up, but it really didn't. It was a really fun fight, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed myself. But back to that new boss talk, at the very end of the DLC, if you walk up to this thing and punch it, you'll be faced with an entirely new cutscene. Moog has been shackled, and using his body as ammunition, Miquella creates his consort. But it's not Radahn, it's Malenia. Malenia, the Bloodbound Consort, or BBC for short. I'm sure if you look up Malenia BBC, then nothing weird will come up. Anyways, this version of Malenia is crazy, but not like really crazy in a bad way. I really liked this fight, actually. Yeah, there was a lot going on. Yeah, it was kind of hard to see at times, but it, for the most part, felt pretty intuitive. That being said, though, I wasn't ready. I went back into the Lands Between to pick up an item, a weapon of absolute ass destruction. Remember when I said I wished the Fume Sword had a better Ash of War? Well, this is it. This weapon, Vengeance and Glory, has the exact same moveset, but with a much better Ash of War. With this awesome new weapon, I brought Miss BBC down, but she wasn't done. Her second phase was here, where she became Miquella's true consort, and let me tell you, this is the Garden of Eyes mod at its absolute best. Consort Malenia is a crazy wild son of a bitch, but she is so fun. But with my new weapon, I was able to capitalize on every mistake she made, and after what was a very fun, exhilarating, and maybe altogether too short fight, I came out on top. Folks at home, that's it for the Garden of Eyes mod. I'm realizing right this second that I didn't actually kill Radagon and beat the game, and I might have missed some little bosses that aren't on the wiki somewhere, but I did at least succeed in my original mission of killing all the new bosses that I knew about. So, at the end of the day, how do I feel about the Garden of Eyes mod? It might kind of feel like a cop-out, but I feel really conflicted. There's so many cool new little additions, changes, or tweaks that get you excited to play parts of the game you may otherwise skip. There's a wide array of new weapons, armor, spells, which I didn't even get into, that keep things fresh and interesting, but when it comes to the stuff they added all on their own, like their own original ideas. Odon, who I guess is a clone, I don't even know if you can call him an original idea. Cambria, or the Gale wannabe, whose name I don't even remember, or the Tower of Flame, or the Temple of Eyes, they constantly find themselves doing too much. The Tower of Flame is hard to look at. Cambria is hard to look at. Morgoth's fight had any epicness it had stripped away in place of being a total pain in the ass. And don't even get me started on the fucking Lake of Rot. But when I fought Gale in Radahn's arena, when I fought the Nameless King in Farum Azula, or when I fought the Wrath of Cinders inside of the Giant's Forge, those moments were awesome. Truly, simply awesome. And hey, we ended on a great note with Consort Malenia. I really thought they were gonna make her too crazy. And maybe they did make her a little too crazy. Maybe I wouldn't have had as much fun without my busted ass weapon, but how I played it and how I experienced it, the end was very fun. To sum it all up, I think the Garden of Eyes mod is ambitious, overly so. I think it gets lost in the big ideas and doesn't quite hit the mark on most of them, but when it does hit, it really hits. There's a lot to like about this mod, there's a lot to dislike about this mod. If I could give a message to the folks working on it, it would be this: slow down. Just take on one thing at a time, have people give feedback on new bosses or areas, and just really take your time. You've got a really cool thing going on. Don't ruin it by constantly trying to find the next big thing. And for the people at home, should you play this mod? To that, I think I would say that if you're someone who really likes Elden Ring, someone who really likes the previous Souls games, and really likes the idea of them being brought together, then you absolutely should try this mod. And even if you just like Elden Ring, then this mod still adds a lot of really neat new stuff to be excited about. So if that sounds like you, then yes, you should try it. And again, pirating small teams that work on stuff like this is lame. Don't want to pay? Don't play. Get your bread up, pussy. Sorry, that was unnecessary. I can already hear the nerd in the comments saying, why should I pay for the mod that just reuses assets? Like, okay, dork, just put them in the game yourself and then you don't have to pay. To that end, the Garden of Eyes mod was, at least, very memorable. I hope you guys had fun taking this ride with me and didn't mind my complaining too much. It's kind of my thing, you know. Thank you again for watching. Subscribe if you like me and want to be my friend, because we'll totally hang out and be friends and go get chicken Big Macs if you subscribe. I don't really even know what I'm talking about anymore. Thanks for watching. GG's, everybody.